Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. First things first, of course, we're taking care of business before we start this week's podcast. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Still trying to muck up my words, but this is the second time I tried to record this, so you can just bear with me there. Yeah, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. If you don't mind subscribing to the channel, that will be massively appreciated. We do thank you for your support. Of course, the support on the channel recently, as I mentioned for the past few episodes, has been unreal. And we can only thank you guys enough. And there's some big stuff to come between now and the end of the season. So, and if you subscribe to the channel, you'll be the first people to know when we do something different. So make sure you tune in for that. Make sure you download it on Spotify and Apple or wherever you get your podcasts from as well. That will help us out a lot. But let's crack on with this week's episode. And my God, there's a lot to talk about. And I'll tell you what, it is getting tasty, baby. I tell you, as well, at the top end of the table anyway, probably not so much at the bottom. It looks like it's been there. It's been pretty much decided for quite a few weeks now. But we're speaking on this episode with new league leaders for the first time in, what was it, like 120 odd days? I think it was mentioned or something like that. I am here to talk about it as well. We've got a bumper panel with us tonight with Jake, Luke, and we've also got Keiron, who's decided to pop on I can imagine, especially at Luke and Kieran's end, pretty miserable. Jake probably for the fact that, Salford's slim playoff hopes are fading. And I'm doing okay. We won again. But we'll get onto that in a little bit. How are we all?
Depressed. I think I'm going to get, maybe through 20 minutes of this pod and then just go silent, just try for a third of the time and then just give up in a very similar fashion to our players. That's kind of where we're at.
Hello, it was a really, really good little bridging in comparison there, Luke. Well done. I'm also equally as miserable. Probably not as miserable now that I think about it, given the MK hopes of this season into what has come a very dismal and sad display. But all we can, we scored a good goal, but we still lost. So, it's not fantastic, but we're living the dream. And you know what? I'm actually quite excited to get stuck in to talk about this because there's some really exciting games that have happened over the weekend.
Yeah, partly from what I got from that saying, yeah, all right, our team may be dog, but we've got MK to laugh about, so who cares?
Yeah, basically.
Jake, how's everything?
Yeah, not bad. Didn't lose, but our season is probably over, unlike some of the other teams. Be interesting to get into.
Certainly, and let's not muck about because we have got a lot to talk about, and we do mean a lot. And as we mentioned at the start of this week of this episode, we now have new league leaders. Walsall have been finally knocked off their perch. And they're not even second either. They now move down to third. Port Vale, who beat them yesterday, move up above them by a point. But it's currently Bradford City that top the table, with them filling out Valley Parade again. Another sellout there as they beat Crewe by 2-0. Of course, you look at the rest of the other teams as well. Doncaster left it late at Cheltenham to win there. AFC Wimbledon got the job done against Harrogate to the dismay of Luke, which keeps their automatic promotion hopes alive. Notts County failed to win. They lost on the road to Colchester and their god-awful pitch, which could be a big result for Colchester. But they need a favour from one or two teams because Grimsby won again, who beat a struggling Morecambe side who, quite frankly, look like they're doomed for the drop. Let's have a look at mainly the top three at the minute. We've mentioned that Bradford have gone top. I feel like for Walsall, their position at the top of the table was quickly fading. I think they've now gone, 9 games without a win? They have just not been on form at all. They lost at home in a crucial game to Port Vale, who are doing very well at the minute with their that was their 5th win in their last 6. It's a result that has moved them to above them. They were top going into 3 o'clock, obviously with Bradford playing at 3, and they scored after 11 seconds, which put them top pretty much straight away. It looked like a hectic game. I mean, certainly like the first 10 minutes I saw popped up on my phone. Walsall were winning by 1-0. Then the goal was disallowed, and then Tolai scored. That somewhat overhead kick was just come off the back of the goalkeeper to put them 1-up. Then Walsall were winning, and then Port Vale managed to find 2 further goals. Another goal for Tolai just before half time. Following one from Ben Garrity, and they managed to hold on from there with no further goals. It always felt like a significant game going into it. I think a little bit localish, sort of. And it's Port Vale that has gone on the right side of that, which gives them a huge 3 points in the battle for not just the automatic race, but for the title.
Absolutely. I mean, I was kind of saying last week in the build-up to Bradford Port Vale that whoever wins that game is going to go on to win the title. But then when you add in this fixture as well, and the fact that Port Vale have now won both, that is outrageous to go and take 6 points there. I mean, that was such a dramatic game. It could have gone either way. I mean, penalties and all the rest of it. It's a weird week for penalties as well, by the way. There's about 5 penalties, 4 of them were handballs. Like a bit odd, but no, it's just very impressive fight from Port Vale, and at this point they're going to be on top of the world. I think they may not be top just yet, but I think they're going to be. I think they're going to be champions at this point. And the way Walsall are going, they're not going to make top 3. They've got favourable fixtures, but you've got to get that first win, and that's the hardest one to get.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Port Vale are just looking stronger and stronger every week. I mean, look, 5 wins out of their last 6. I mean, yeah, they lost to Barrow, but I think I saw that they hit the woodwork about 4 times. Just one of those nights, maybe it looks like. But yeah, look, going to Walsall, knowing that they've been top of the table for a long time, they know that they've been far from it. Certainly not promotion-worthy form. They sort of smell blood, and I think a lot of teams have sort of smelt blood from them. At the minute, with Bradford, with Doncaster as well. Maybe, probably not so much AFC Wimbledon with their recent form, but there's been opportunities there to capitalise. And with the way that they were going, Walsall, it was only a matter of time before they were going to get knocked off top spot. Where did they go? Because at the minute, I feel at this moment in time, their form, they're dropping out the top 3. I think the way they're going at the minute, they've got 5 games left, 5 massive games. They've got a half decent running, I'd say, in terms of teams that are quite near the bottom. But they've got to get these results. Maybe a couple more wins, maybe a draw, a couple more draws here and there might be enough. But certainly, if they go into the playoffs, they are not the team I'm backing by a long shot. I mean, of course, I'll say that being a Grimsby fan currently in there, but just from generally speaking, I worry for them. I worry for them that they might not even get promoted with how long they've been top of the table.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think most people who have been watching League Two have seen Walsall and seen that position at the top of the table, even when they were, 9-10 points clear. They had started that bad run. Everyone had thought, it won't last too long. But then you're talking 4 or 5 games on the bounce without a win. I think everyone knew at that point, even though they had the top spot, it was very fragile. And it was, like you mentioned, just a matter of time before they ended up dropping off that perch. And I looked at, obviously, when they played Doncaster, and they drew 2-2. And I thought, after watching that, maybe that's the one that potentially pushes them on to maybe not win the league necessarily with this Port Vale game coming up, and they've got a couple potentially tricky fixtures coming up. But I looked at it and I went, yeah, maybe that kind of result will push them enough to just limp over the line and get into that top 3 at minimum. But now looking at it, they've got Barrow coming up next, which for one reason or another is never an easy game. It's almost like you're playing Gillingham. You don't know what Barrow you're coming up to expect. But
I'll tell you something. I reckon Barrow have had a big say in this promotion fight these last few weeks.
Yeah, they've had a massive say, haven't they? You look at some of the games they've played and just some of the results they've pulled out. Obviously, beating the likes of Port Vale, taking points off Wimbledon, or if you talk ever so narrowly, taking points off the likes of Salford and Chesterfield. They've had a massive say in that, despite not being anywhere near it themselves. But Yeah, it's an interesting one when you talk Walsall, because even though they were top for so long, I think everyone looks at this season for Walsall and looks at probably the departure of Nathan Lowe as that reason for their really, really steady decline, because evidently so. He was the main point in just about everything they did. And without that, and it's almost been a Walsall thing for a few seasons, they've signed a good loan striker, they pushed up the table, they've lost them, and they've kind of dropped off again. But I don't know. I still personally think they clinched top three, only because the results they have are favourable. And surely, if this doesn't wake them up, them now sleepwalking off the top off of the top spot rather, and potentially sleepwalking down that table a little bit more. If this doesn't wake them up, nothing will. If it doesn't get just a little bit more effort out of those players, then evidently they don't deserve to be promoted, no matter how far ahead they were. And I think it gives a saying that I hear a lot in football, especially towards this end part of the season, that it's not overly how they start the season. It's about how you finish it. And that's almost what Port Vale and Bradford have not quite capitalised on, but they flourished in. They've started picking up points at the right time to Walsall's expense. But where do they go from here? Simply put, get some results against more favourable teams. I know we've been saying that for the past 9 games, but if they don't do it now, even if they get in the playoffs, they don't deserve it, because their form for this final third of the season has been atrocious. It's been really, really bad, and I think it's not a sustainable way of playing football either, if you're relying on a lone player to basically drag you through a league season. And they kind of need to fix that, especially if they are to get promoted going into next season.
Yeah, it's just the games that they've got left that just makes me believe that, just a couple more results will see them over the line, but it will be just creeping over the line, which is a far cry from where they were. Like I said, Barrow will be a tough game, because they've had some good results against promotion chasing teams. But then after that, they play Harrogate, they play Newport, they play Accrington. There's absolutely no excuses why they can't get 3 points out of all of those games. And then they've got Crewe final day. Crewe potentially could be playing for something. So it's important that they get some results. I just think they will. I just think the quality of the opposition they've got left. But it's about, these players need lift. They're 9 games without a win. I don't like saying the word. I think it gets misinterpreted a lot in football. But if they don't go up, they've well and truly bottled it. There's no other way to describe it. You surely agree with me there, Jake, do you?
Yeah, absolutely. They were so far clear. They were top for 24 games. They looked like they were gone in January, and then to lose Nathan Lowe and to win 3 games from then on, we're now in April. That's relegation form. So they've got to just get some results on the board and build that momentum again, because they've just been looking over their shoulder for too long now. They need to just get over the line in some games.
They just need something, don't they? They just need something. Like I said, 9 games without a win. Yes, they played some half-decent teams in that, but they've also dropped points to teams that you probably fancy them picking up. They threw a 2-goal lead late to Cheltenham. They lost to Swindon. They drew with Carlisle. They've had some right poor results in there, truth be told.
My thing that I've questioned for a while was maybe it's that they've been too complacent. They've been top of the league with this gap for way, way too long, and maybe they were almost looking at it, and especially with how the fans were reacting, maybe they were already seeing it as, yeah, we've done it. It doesn't overly matter how the rest of the season goes. But obviously, looking at where they are, and they need to focus right up until the last game, because it almost feels for these past 9 games they've been on holiday. It almost feels like they've had that summer break, because you even watch some of the play, if you compare their first half of the season up to now, it's lazy. The passing is slow. There's not enough movement within those front line of players that we saw in that first half of the season. It's poor, and it almost has felt like since realistically January, those players have just given up. and thought that the league title or automatic promotion, depending on what their ambitions were, was in their hands. But evidently now, it's no longer in their hands. They're 2 points off of dropping out the top three. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to finally being knocked off their perch.
Yeah, I'd be worried though. I would be worried, and I think rightly so with this form. But credit to Port Vale where it's due, because they're giving it a right go. And so at Bradford, they were at home again yesterday. They're good at doing that, and they're good at getting good attendances at the minute. Again, it looks like a near enough sellout Valley Parade with all the like flags and teeth. It looks great. Again, we say it again. League Two football, unmatched. I mean, I'd rather watch something like that than a Manchester derby today, because oh my god, that was pants. Look, 11 seconds was all it took to score against Crewe. Sam Walker with a crucial penalty save in there, and then they wrapped it up pretty late. Start wise, probably suggested they deserve it, and of course they have gone top of the table. They've been one of the best teams in the league since the turn of the year. All right, they've had a few iffy results recently, losing to Gills, losing to Tranmere, drawing with Accrington. I mean, losing to Port Vale in the week it looked like a little bit of a sucker punch. And that's another thing, which is credit for Port Vale for. But it's Bradford that have topped it. Not by much, but they've topped it after, these last few weeks of definitely threatening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they opened in style, as you said. That's such an early goal. 11 seconds into that game, who's winning. They came out of the blocks quickly, and there was a clear desire there. They're going for that title, and they're not going to let anyone get in their way. And don't get me wrong, Crewe are a decent side. They're still in the mix. If Bradford lose that game, that's potentially one of your playoff fixtures. In a few games' time, but. I think at a bare minimum, the way Bradford are playing, top three it seems inevitable at this point. It almost doesn't matter who's missing. I think there have been games where they've not quite had enough up front, and that's going to happen. I think in any team, you're going to have one of those days, but more often than not, they've got enough to come out the other end of it. And like I said, I think the motivation, the desire within that squad. And when you've got someone like Graham Alexander there, I think they'll be very, very well motivated, and that should see them through. I think they'll definitely get top three at an absolute minimum.
I agree. Can I just say something? Flash score took the mick. I was told by my mates that they were winning 1-0, quite early on in the game. I think the last time I checked, it took them till the 18th minute to update it, which was really weird. Just checking my phone, it's like, yeah, Bradford has scored. It's like, yeah, about time. I scored about 20 minutes ago, mate. So, clearly an error from there. But yeah, talking about, making a quick start, getting out the blocks early, and it just set the tone. And I think, you're always going to find it tough when you go to Bradford. If you go a goal down early in that manner, you're always going to struggle to come back from it. I mean, look, they had that golden chance with the penalty. Sam Walker with the save could be the biggest save of Bradford's season. I don't think he saves a lot of penalties, actually, but I don't think many keepers do, especially at this level. It's certainly it's damaging for Crewe. I don't think many people really gave Crewe much of a sniff. Maybe a little bit. Maybe that's a bit harsh. They're still in this playoff contention as it is, but Bradford have just been so good at home, and with that support, I got the sense that when it's like that, Bradford are never losing. That's just what I get from it.
It's an interesting one when we've been talking Bradford for the past number of seasons in League Two, that they finally almost found their trick of having these stupidly high attendances. And you can talk of it as a cliche, or you could talk of it as, absolute rubbish. But I really do think having that, 23,000 fans, something like that at Valley Parade, surely that's surely that's an absolute motivation booster for the Bradford players. And then when you're going there, surely that's difficult when you've got 20 odd thousand people pretty much screaming for the opposition team to win. And I don't think they've really utilized that trick that no other team in this division has. Nobody has the following like Bradford in this league, and they're finally using it to get that really, really good home form that we've seen displayed over the past number of weeks and months. And again, like you mentioned, when they're scoring mere seconds into the match, that sets the tone not only to the Bradford and Crew players, but that sets the tone to the fans as well.
Can I just say as well, for the penalty, the noise behind the goal was deafening.
Not only was the noise behind the goal deafening, you saw all the flags and all of that stuff that was just being moved around at such a quick pace. Again, that surely distracts the penalty taker from, doing it with their 100% focus, because they've got all this noise and all these movements of flags going about that surely it's hard to fully, dedicate your concentration to it, especially when, again, there's no ground in this division that packs the attendance like Valley Parade does. But, despite all of that, you talk on the pitch for Bradford. If anything, they've got better without Andy Cook. And I'm not saying that to discredit Andy Cook. I think he's a phenomenal player and probably one of the best strikers to ever play in this division. But what they've actually become since he's been injured is a team that doesn't rely on an individual. Much like what Walsall have done. They relied on Nathan Lowe for so long. They haven't had to rely on Andy Cook to be the bagsman and to get them out of trouble. They can do it more than frequently with the 11 players on the pitch, and they all contribute with their own attributes that maybe they wouldn't have done with the likes of Andy Cook in that team. They can now put in every single bit of effort into it and give that extra 10%, which I think is what you want in a promotion chasing side, and it's exactly what they've got. And like you mentioned, Crew are a good side, and they've been historically relatively good at keeping teams out of their net, running back that almost really dangerous back three, back five, whatever you want to call it. They're usually quite solid. When you're scoring the quickest goal in the EFL for what was it, 4 years? That easily sets the tone. It probably sets the tone now for Bradford moving forward. They can easily kick on, and like Luke mentioned, bare minimum top three, bare minimum.
Yeah, it's the games they've got coming up though. I think will be a test. I mean, Swindon, Notts, Chesterfield, Doncaster, Fleetwood, their next 5. Quick thoughts on that, Jake? Because I think there's some tough ones there, but I can't. It's hard to look past them at the minute for me. I just think they've just got something going there, and I think they'll be daft to throw it away. I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. They've got a hard run in on paper, but the way that they've been playing this year, it'd be hard for them to not get over the line into that top 3. They look such a force going forward. It won't be easy going to Valley Parade. I just think they'll get over the line.
Yeah, I agree. Luke, I think both you said, was it just a yes from you think they'll do it? It's there, yeah.
Top 3 easily.
I think they'll win the league. I know we're very adamant on Port Vale, given what they've done, and I know Bradford have some tough games coming up. But I just think, for me, that Bradford side and those fans, they deserve it, and I think they'll do it.
Yeah, it's just so tight, isn't it? But I think they'll get promoted, and yeah, I think they'll win the league. Actually, I just think they will. I don't think it'll be by much. We'll leave Crew for now. I want to touch on Crew in a little bit with the whole playoff thing. I'll tell you what, I'm just looking at the table now. We've mentioned about Walsall, how they need a few wins, but you notice the team just below them, Doncaster, they're 2 points behind them, but only have a game in hand, and they left it late at Cheltenham yesterday, winning 2-0. It's the points on the board, 2 late goals there, big 3 points. In this automatic promotion battle against a side in which, well, their season's done, to be quite honest.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can see from Cheltenham's form that their season's done. They've lost their last 4 at this point, and one of those losses is us, and that's telling you everything. But no, in truth, I think, well, it's just tricky with Doncaster. It's a case of you can see there's a lot of quality in the side, but they do have a lot of off days, or sort of not quite 100% days. And, Cheltenham had a man down for a reasonable chunk of the game. There was chances there. And I mean, they've got it over the line, which is obviously the most important thing, but they're not the most convincing. The only sort of redeeming factor there is they've got that game in hand, which, you know, when you're hunting that top three and you're the team in fourth, you know, it's very handy to have, but it's not points on the board.
Yeah.
And you really need to see some kind of stability from them. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to think. I'd like to think they could put it together. I know they've now got the centre back, I can't say his name, Olowu, that guy. Yeah, he's missing now for the season, which I think is a huge loss. You know, they've had all sorts of defensive players missing and all the rest of it. But even then, I still think there's enough quality in that side if they can just, you know, really click in those final few games. It's tough to tell. I think they'll do it personally, but it's going to be close.
Again, I think I do look at the games I've got coming up. I mean, they've got that, obviously, that game in hand, but the old saying is, you know, you'd rather have points on the board than games in hand. That game in hand is against Salford, of course. But you see the games they do have coming up. They've got to play AFC Wimbledon, they've got to play Salford, they've got to play Tranmere, they've got to play Colchester, they've got to play Bradford, they've got to play Notts County. This will be a proper test of their resilience if they are to crack the top three. Because, yeah, there's, I think, pretty much all of them, other than maybe Salford, who are pretty much nearly out of it, that are still fighting for something at this moment in time. Tranmere sort of are. I've included them in for now, but although that's getting less and less. So that game, you know, for them might not mean as more. But those other games, yeah, this will really test them, see if they're really worthy.
It's an interesting one when you talk Doncaster, because if you remember last season, in the off season, just after they crashed out of the playoffs, you had their manager Grant McCann basically saying, "We need to be going for the title next year. That's the aim that needs to happen." And I think what I've heard from a lot of Walsall fans and watching Walsall on occasions is they've got every single facility to get out of this division, win the league, do all the lot. But they can never, almost alluding to what Luke said, they can never get out of first gear. You know, they very rarely get out of that opening start, like Bradford did, obviously, when they played. They don't often get out flying. And I think that's probably been their main issue, is that if they gave that extra 10, 20%, especially at the start of games, to really put a foothold into the game and show to the opposition, you know, this is what we're about, this is what we're going for, they'd probably be where Bradford are. Because I think squad-wise, they've probably got a better team than Bradford. But they've just not, like Luke mentioned, they've just not clicked in certain games. And the fixtures they've got coming up, I mean, Grant McCann, like I mentioned, he talked about wanting promotion. He talked about, you know, getting rid of players that basically didn't want it. This will be the thing that really tests if that was right or not. Because even if they go through the playoffs and win it, yes, they've been promoted. But surely from those comments and this team that they've structured in League Two over a few seasons, surely automatic should have been their aim, and they shouldn't be settling for playoffs. Again, game in hand's nice, but there's no guarantee they get the 3 points there. There's no guarantee they get anything. So it'll be interesting to see how they go, because I think they've probably got one of the hardest, if not the hardest, run-ins for any of these promotion-chasing teams going into the final few games.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? But you just know Grant McCann's mindset. You know, he signalled his intent right after pretty much the final whistle when they lost to Crewe last season in the playoffs. I doubt that's changed. In fact, no. I think it's only encouraged him, to be honest. But yeah, these are difficult games, and you know, if they do come through it at the right end, then they deserve it. I think that's the only thing I can take from that. Cheltenham, there's not really much more to say. 4 defeats in a row, they're done. They'll be in League Two next year. I did see one or two Cheltenham fans unhappy with Michael Flynn. Not for the first time. I feel like, you know, they've had that period. I mean, you know, they've only won one of the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I think 9. One of the last 9 and 10. I mean, understandable there.
I'll have him back. No problem.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Or Nelson Jardim lifetime contract. Which one?
I think that's a silly question, really, mate, isn't it? Nelson Jardim lifetime got no, of course, Michael Flynn back. Get him back in the county dugout.
Yeah. Well, we're interested to hear Newport. Your thoughts, including Newport's thoughts. I'd imagine it'll be with open arms, as Keiron mentioned. I sort of just lost what I want to say. Oh well, let's.
Cheltenham season is over.
Yeah. I don't think there's really much more to say, to be honest. No, let's go to Wimbledon. They got the job done against Harrogate. And yeah, they picked up 3 points. They just got the job done, didn't they, Jay? Eventually, but it could be big.
Yeah, it's important because in the last 3 games they'd thrown it away late on, and you think that's a bad mentality to have going into the most important time of the season. So to get not a pretty performance but a win on the board, build that momentum a little bit, will do them a world of good.
Yeah, perhaps going into it. I mean, that win's always important. I mean, yeah, they've got some pretty tricky fixtures coming. I don't think. Look, it's hard to say that there's any easy games in League Two because there absolutely isn't, especially this season where it's just so wacky. I think it's probably the word I'd describe it. Doncaster next, then they've got Chesterfield, Gillingham, then they play for Port Vale, and then they come to Grimsby on the final day. That could be a huge game for both. There's some huge games there. I personally need to see more from Wimbledon. I think I've pretty much been under that impression for a while. To me, it looks like I just feel like Harrogate play for a point every single away day, like every time. Like I get it, but that's just what they are. I get the needing points, but someone just to get them over the line, and there's a way to do it, and you'd happily take a point on an away day, but I just need to see more from Wimbledon at the minute, because out of the teams that are up there at the minute, I don't think I fancy them.
I mean, I'm glad someone else has said it and it's not me. Because if I said
it, you for a change. I think you've had enough.
The comments would be after me straight away if I said it, but no, I would agree. I mean, it's the difference is Stevens is slowed down with his scoring, and he is their main avenue. You know, we talk about Walsall being a one sort of player team in terms of having Nathan Lowe as your finisher. It's very, very similar with AFC. I think they are a little bit more diverse in that sense because they do still have Brown and Smith that have popped up with goals recently, but they don't. Again, they're a bit like Doncaster. They don't quite have that cutting edge to them at the minute. And with the games left, I'm looking at that next game, and it is between those two. It's Doncaster AFC. Whichever one of those wins that, that is probably your statement win that sets you up for the remaining games. And I mean, if it's a draw, then it's just miserable for both, really. I think 1 point isn't really enough for anyone, given that teams are dropping points hit left, right, and centre. There are so many teams involved. You just need the 3 points at this point. 1 point won't do it for me. I'm not sure they've got enough in the tank. I'm sure I'll probably get a few comments for saying that, but because of who I support. But yeah, I don't think they've quite got enough.
I personally agree. I get they're built on obviously a solid defence. 31 goals conceded this season, which is, I think, one of the lowest, if not the lowest. I mean, they still scored 54 goals. It's not like they don't score goals. I just think something's off. Something's off. And I feel like it has been for a little bit. I don't think they'll make top 3. I think they'll just miss out. I think they've got some tricky games to come as well. I do think they'll be in the playoffs, but look, never say never. Like I said, that game at Grimsby on the final day could be big for them. Hopefully, it's big for us, as we'll get onto in a minute. But yeah, I mean, it's a point towards safety for Harrogate. I think that'll be fine, to be honest. I think they're pretty much there. As how bad I think the other two are. So I don't think there's anything really to dwell on. Notts County lost at Colchester. Big win for Colchester, keeps them in the mix. It's another defeat for Notts County, and again, I say it's another defeat. They have won back to back. They have won the last two. They beat MK Dons 3-0.
That doesn't count. Come on.
Conveniently enough, it doesn't count either. It doesn't count either because they beat Newport 2-0. So neither of those wins count in my books.
Well, there you go.
Those games are redundant. They're another. Yeah, I think they're another team I need to see more of at the minute. I certainly don't think they're top three worthy. It's a big win for Colchester, as mentioned. It keeps their playoff hopes alive. We'll have a quick discussion about that in a minute. I know there's still a lot to get through, so we're trying to get through this pretty quickly. Quick thoughts on Notts at the minute, as we're still looking at pretty much the top end.
Similar with almost similar with Wimbledon. They've had some easy-ish fixtures, albeit Crew's a difficult one for reasons I suppose Chesterfield was at the time. But they've had probably an easier run in their past 5 than they will be going into. They've got the likes of Doncaster and Bradford and even a Harrogate to play, who we've seen tricky side to play for their own different reasons. They've probably not been convincing enough in those performances to then potentially look at these next 5 and go, yeah, they've shown enough to give really good and really positive intent going into it. Not to even mention, I don't even think I mentioned they had Bradford with that. Maybe I did, but either way, they've got some hard games here, and they've not shown probably top 3 standards in their recent 5 to then give you probably a load of confidence. But that being said, they've got a good attacking outlet. Potentially, if they get a win against Salford, who have nothing to play for, maybe there's something in there for them. But nah, I think there's other teams within that top 3 race that you probably fancy more than Notts.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think, I don't think injuries have helped, but they've still got a good team as it is. I just think they could have done more in a few games. I mean, they had 14. If we look at it on stats, they had 14 shots to Colchester's 3. Maybe Colchester have adjusted to their awful pit. I don't know. But yeah, I mean,
Maybe
one shot on target from those 14 shots, I think says it all as well. I think they need to pick up a little bit.
They're near enough a copy of Wimbledon, aren't they?
Yeah.
They don't have that cutting edge in the final third to really capitalise on chances they build. But
I think if you ask me, out of Notts and Wimbledon, who I think is more likely to crack into the top 3, I'd still say Notts.
I'd lean towards Notts as well, because I think they're showing a little bit more than Wimbledon have in recent weeks, even though they've not shown, leaps and leaps towards that top 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back to Colchester because we need to talk about this last place for the playoffs. I know we've left Crewe after that Bradford defeat, but it's currently my boys Grimsby Town that currently occupy that last playoff spot. We're 3 points clear. We beat Morecambe yesterday 3-1. It was a pretty flat first half. Greeny with the header. I think there's a goal that Derek Adams will be disappointed in, from the near post, as one of 2 assists on the day for Denver Hume. For any club, anyone that's interested, I'm here to tell you that he's absolute garbage, absolute troublemaker. We should give him a lifetime contract here, and let him, hopefully improve with us because, he's all right, isn't he?
Either that or he's a 100 million player in my eyes, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a terrific season, and I think there's so many players you can have for Grimsby Player of the Season. I think, he's a very good shout for it, alongside probably George McEachran and probably Keiron Green. I thought Cheltenham's goal... Cheltenham? No, wrong game. I thought Morecambe's goal was quite decent. Good finish from Dallas, actually. Could Rodgers have closed him down quicker? Maybe, but it's a good finish either way. We brought on George McEachran at half-time for Gezadari Toure, and I thought that sort of changed the game pretty instantly. Unbelievable hit from Luca Barrington. Really pleased for him. I think he's worked really hard these last few weeks. I think what he needed was a goal, and that'll boost his confidence right up there. I was delighted for him yesterday because it's the least he's deserved these last few weeks. And we just took control of the game there and on. Probably should have scored more. I feel like I've said that a few times. Probably should have scored more, put the game to bed. And then we've managed to get that third goal to seal the victory with another one from Keiron Greeniesta, better than Pele. I adore the bloke. What a season he's had.
Injured Aaron Wildick, I'm still salty
Yeah.
about that.
But in the playoffs, it does, with Chesterfield losing quite awfully to Tranmere, it still looks like a three-way race for that last playoff spot. It's advantage Grimsby, Colchester are 3 points behind us, Crewe are 4 points behind us. Bearing in mind Colchester play Crewe I think it's the game after, because I think Colchester play Newport next. I think it's after that. I think they play Crewe. Again, that is season defining, arguably. Quick thoughts from all of you. What you think for that last playoff spot? Because I'm to be fair, I'm warning you. I'm warning you all, to be honest. Be nice.
You know what? I'm gonna jump the gun first. I think Newport are gonna do what Newport do best when we play Colchester. No, I reckon you know how this works, right? You have a team that are top end of the league. They've got something to fight for. Final few days, they come to Rodney Parade, then we stick 4 past them randomly. I just have that suspicion we're gonna do that to Colchester. Whether that means that Grimsby are going to capitalise on it is a different thing. I think I'd also like to mention, we mentioned this before we started recording, of course, Grimsby's negative goal difference to Colchester's and Crewe's positive. Given how tight this top 7 race is, that could be a real defining moment. And we even talked about this. 16 losses for Grimsby in this 7th. But either way,
But we've won the same amount of games as Walsall. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but then you've lost the same amount as Gillingham. So you've got a 2-headed coin here. But no, it's difficult, isn't it? So I've not been saying it as long as Luke, but I've probably been saying for the past 2 months, Colchester. But that Grimsby game probably swayed me. I think Crewe, in my eyes, don't convince me enough, almost as much as, Wimbledon and Notts don't convince me enough the top 3. That, you know what, I'm going to be nice to you. I think Grimsby are going to do it. Just off of the edge that you've beaten Colchester. You've shown them, probably that signal of intent, and now they're playing catch up. So there's a lot of added pressure on them. Crewe, like I mentioned, they've picked one win their past 5. Ironically, to Grimsby, but still, they've got to be winning. They can't just be looking at one game as their top 7 defining moment. Meanwhile, Grimsby have won 3 in their last 5, which is also better than Colchester's. So if we use that logic and lean it towards the final 5, Grimsby just about squeak it by about 4 points. But I do think they're going to do it. And this isn't because of you, Jordan, because you know me, I like annoying you as much as the next guy. But I do think Grimsby are the one to pick up that final playoff spot. Wembley.
I should probably look for hotels now. I'm going to regret that come the end of the season when we miss out.
Don't do that. Oh, what team was it that did it? What team was it that did it last season? There was one team. Was it? It was for
Peterborough when they were
Peterborough. Yeah, Peterborough were 4-0 up in the. That was a couple of seasons ago, wasn't it? No, yeah, it was when Peterborough were 4-0 up against Wednesday. That wasn't last season. It was a couple of seasons back.
Yeah, it was a couple of seasons ago now.
Yeah, but they were booking hotels to Wembley and they ended up losing. Yeah. So I wouldn't quite do that yet, Jordan. But give it another couple of weeks, and maybe you could have a little browse.
There's twists and turns yet to come. Quick thoughts on you from the other two.
Well, given how wacky this season is, I still think there's perhaps another twist in the tail. And, we're saying that AFC and AFC and Notts, we're saying, are what in the autos race when they're 5 points behind. Colchester are only 6 points behind AFC and Notts. I still think one of those could still potentially actually drop out the playoffs. So I'm going to go ahead and be controversial and say both Grimsby and Colchester make it at the expense of one of those two other teams.
You're going to say it in the expense of Wimbledon. Let's be fair here, Luke. Yeah, to be fair, I kind of see his logic. Part of me wanted to say
it's such a weird season.
This is my thing. Part of me wanted to say the same thing, but I was doing it entirely off a basis that we're just talking the last spot. If we're talking full playoffs, then we get a little bit more. We do a little bit more twisting around of it.
Yeah, I just think there's a little bit more to it. Yeah, whether it's AFC or not or whoever. Obviously, you know which one I'd prefer it to be. Well, yeah, oh my god, imagine that would be mental.
Oh, that would be unreal, wouldn't it? Can they can mathematically still do it, 9. Colchester are 10 points behind Walsall. It's mathematically possible.
Be outrageous if that happened, but yeah, for me, I think one of AFC or not. Either way, to be honest, based on the way that their fans have, well, both clubs' fans have been interacting with ours over the last few months, either of those teams dropping out would be fantastic. I'll take it. I don't mind which.
Yeah, I think Grimsby will just about do it. Obviously, their goal difference won't help, but you look at their remaining games and it's just Port Vale, which you can't see them winning. So they have the favourable run in, so I think they might just sneak it.
Wimbledon, maybe.
Wimbledon is final day, which could be massive.
Yeah, here you go. You'll lose to Swindon now.
And we've got Harrogate and Swindon next to. We've struggled in recent times against Harrogate. Swindon, we've got the added spice of Ian Holloway, and we've got one easy game in there at MK Dons. So it's
we'll let you score as many as you like.
My thought process, Jordan, is that if you win those two, you've near enough done it.
I think so.
Because of how inconsistent literally every team within this promotion race has been. You win those two games that are favourable and they're in your hands near enough. I think that's near enough playoff sorted.
Yeah, I agree. We've dwelled on the playoff and the promotion place quite a lot. I mean, we're 47 minutes in. Let's run through the other ones pretty quickly. I don't think we'll dwell massively long in it. It was another big day in the relegation battle with Tranmere, winning 4-0 against Chesterfield. Unbelievable result from them. Accrington got hammered at Bromley. We saw that. I mean, Michael Cheek got another couple of goals. What a season he's had. And he likes Keiron's TikTok
for him.
Yeah.
It was not my TikTok. He liked my post on Twitter. Which, by the way, thank you, Michael Cheek. Appreciate that, man.
It was Twitter, but you saw it anyway. Morecambe lost at Grimsby, as I've mentioned, and Carlisle. They picked up a win from 2-0 down to come away 3-2 victors against Newport County. I don't think it's a game that you want to dwell on, Keiron.
No,
that Bobby Camworth goal was good, but other than that,
I'll be honest with you. You talk when you score. If you haven't watched a Bobby Camworth goal, by the way, anyone watching, go watch it. It's an absolute worldie of a hit. But those two goals have realistically come out of nowhere. I cannot say Bobby Camworth scores from 30 yards out and then say, oh, it's a lovely run of build-up play. But now they've come out of nowhere. Carlisle are the better side. They deserved it. And I had a lot of Carlisle fans come in and say, we're staying up, which they've got 5 games to play and they're 8 points behind Accrington. So I really don't think it's going to happen. I do, relegation-wise, I think the only real conversation you could have going maybe into the final 3 games is Morecambe or Accrington. I think those are the only 2 that you can really talk about. I know Tranmere are only 1 point ahead of Accrington, but I think they'll probably pick up enough form now to sway away from it.
I just think it's just
about which one of those.
Very good.
I think realistically, it's one of those 2. I think Carlisle, for me, they'll be cemented bottom, and they'll be gone. It's between Accrington and Morecambe for me, and I probably still lean towards Morecambe as well. Because even if they win, you know how it's been working all season. Morecambe win, Accrington win. But I know we've got, is it Morecambe Carlisle?
That's the next game. That's the next
game. Now, for me, if that ends as a win for Carlisle have a little bit of a slim chance. Morecambe win, Morecambe chance. Carlisle may as well say goodbye to EFL now.
Hmm.
And if it ends in a draw, that's probably it for both of them.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a massive game. I think it's a massive game for both, and neither of them can afford to draw. Never mind lose it. So I think that game could be a goal fest. So I could see both teams giving it literally everything for that one because they both need to win it.
I think, they both need to win it. To be quite honest, I mean, after watching Morecambe, I thought they were all right first half, but second half you could really see that they massively struggled with the quality for that. I think even with that game, I'm still under the impression both go down.
Yeah,
I think to be fair, I think Accrington, I think probably, maybe in recent weeks and throughout the season, they've been poor. But Tranmere have picked up. Harrogate, I think, will just about do enough. MK have just about done enough.
Yeah, I think this is another interesting.
I think.
Not mathematically. This is another interesting one, actually. So I was just looking at the fixtures. So obviously, Morgan have Carlisle next. Accrington have Tranmere next. So if Tranmere win that, they near enough pull away. Accrington win it, they pull away. Draw is what it is. Both teams will want to win that one as well. Probably Accrington's to lose, though. I think Tranmere can maybe afford to lose a game here or there. They've got.
Actually, I just noticed that Accrington play Tranmere next as well.
Just mentioned that.
Is that not what
I wasn't listening then.
Just talking about that. Thank you, Jordan. Wow, you know what? Bid him off the podcast. Wow.
Yeah, later.
The one time
off you go. Leave one alone. Off you go. See
you. Jordan, League Two relegation is mine and Luke's expertise, right? Because that's where we are. Right? You can take your promotion stuff, and you can leave us alone to talk about the relegation battle. This is our turf.
I've seen us get relegated out of League Two. Have you?
You're about to see yourselves get promoted out of League Two. Don't be so selfish.
Get promoted out of League Two.
Let's have some time. Harrogate are massive, though. They're going to absolutely smash Grimsby in my eyes.
Well, they always seem to find a way to do us, although we did beat in the season, as I mentioned. Quick thoughts on the relegation battle. Do you still stand by that, it's probably going to be Carlisle and Morecambe bottom two, as I just think Accrington have been pretty lucky, and I think Tranmere, they've picked up. I still think they'll pick up one or two more results between now and the end of the season. I think Accrington will just about do enough.
Either way, no matter what two teams go down here, I still think Accrington are probably front runners. Accrington or Morecambe, depending on which one switch. I probably think they're probably front runners to go down next season anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be very short-lived.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. Accrington, certainly. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. Morecambe and Carlisle will be down, and then Accrington next season will be down then.
Yeah, I think for me, those games there, I still think it just looks still pretty much set in stone. There's too much to do with so little games left now. I think they've had chances.
The only hope that it changes is that Morecambe win against Carlisle, because then Tranmere beat Accrington, because then you're talking 3 points in it. That's probably the only hope there.
Yeah, but even then, I still think there's lots to do.
Yeah, even then, like I mentioned, it's very probably short-lived anyway, because they'll be straight down towards the bottom there next season anyway.
Yeah. Let's have a quick look at the games that probably don't mean a great deal. Let's have a look at MK because they lost again. They're good at doing that. They're good at stealing goals as well. Barrow this time.
Oh, I'm fuming about this one. I'm fuming.
You said yesterday you were close to tears. I thought, you've not seen pain.
It was bad. That is genuinely the most hopeless we've ever looked. Bearing in mind, I was at the game when we got relegated against Burton, where we did just about everything but score, and that felt, that was incredibly depressing. Somehow, what I watched against Barrow was worse. We've had so many blatant chances to put them away, and honestly, I'll give the keeper some credit because he was decent. He made, I think, like 7 saves or something like that. And defensively, second half, they reorganised well, regrouped, all the rest of it. But first half, they were so there for the taking. We had so many chances to put that game away. And that was before they even scored their first one. What was that, like 15, 16 minutes in, something like that? that game was so easily winnable, even more so than the Fleetwood one, because I felt like they were there for the taking as well, but even more so with Barrow, because I don't think they showed much at all. And it's just showing, just how bad things have got in terms of attitude within the club. You can clearly tell we've still got an interim manager in Ben Gladwin. He's clearly given up. He was sat down for most of the game, letting Ian Watson do all the shouting on the touchline, all the rest of it. In the post-match interview, he's practically begging someone to come in and take the job, just so he doesn't have to do it anymore. He's clearly not invested in it, and you can't see things changing very quickly in that regard. And then it's just attitude of the players. That's the big problem, and it's been a problem for absolutely ages. Apparently, obviously I don't know for sure, but apparently there was a bit of a clash between players at the Newport game, which we obviously lost 6-3, and since then it's fallen dramatically. You can even see it just from the way we react to the goals we concede. Even if you just watch Offord's reaction to the first goal, that on its own tells you everything you need to know about the attitude of these players. It's a case of they'll run their hardest for 30 minutes. If that doesn't work and we're not winning about 5-0, that's it. You've had your bit. Woe is me. We're not where we feel like we should be. That's kind of it. We're not going to try anymore. And these are supposed to be professional footballers. It's hard to see how any of them are if that's how they approach playing football. How many young players have missed their opportunity in football, so these guys could have a chance, and they can't be bothered to put in the effort. It's so poor, and I'm not even sure a new manager fixes it. There's big problems that need resolving.
Yeah, it goes beyond the manager. I mean, you've had 2 this season already, so there's something there for me. That's
not to mention a promotion winner last season, so it's not even you can say, oh, these managers have been terrible. You had someone who won promotion with far less resources last season.
Well, the frustration is we know the players have quality. Every single player in the squad has plenty of quality. That we've got all the players we could possibly need in that regard. But in terms of attitude and character, there's just none. There's absolutely none. Any kind of adversity, that's it. The game's done, and you've seen that with all 3 of the last 3 games. That's how we've conceded 10 goals across those 3 games now. They're not exactly strong sides either. Like I said, Fleetwood weren't good against us. Barrow weren't good against us. Notts, fair enough, they had a good day, but there are some serious problems, and a lot of these guys will be very, very lucky to be still at the club next season. And I don't want us to do a full rebuild because I think that would restart the cycle. But at the minute, I don't think any of them could even justify why they'd be starting the next game, let alone why they should be here next season.
Yeah, I don't think many can have many complaints. Salford, they drew 2-2 with Gillingham. We'll just do these very quick because we're very much aware that we're hitting the hour. Jake, thoughts on that one? Playoffs pretty much done?
Yeah, we had a little bit of run where you think maybe we could sneak playoffs, but drawing to Barrow and Gillingham sort of just hold us back. Obviously, if we go and beat Notts County and Doncaster, then it could a little bit, but realistically, we didn't expect to get playoffs. We won't get playoffs. It was a disappointing game because it was just defensive mistakes again, which seems to cost us quite a bit. Decent going forward yet again, but just typical Salford, just not getting over the line in games that they should do. So probably it's cost us our season a little bit, but nothing major.
You mentioned yesterday that Gillingham looked like a Gareth Ainsworth team already.
Yeah, a lot of crowding the referee at any slightest tackle, trying to get red card, slowing the game down.
Well, we go there next, and I don't like.
That'll be fun next season.
Anti-football at Gillingham, fantastic.
What you want is what they've got. That's what I've just known Gillingham has to be quite well. To be fair, no, we mentioned Tranmere's result briefly. Horrible day for Chesterfield, with the run they've been on. I've got to say.
Yeah, shocking. I mean, probably same as Salford ruins their playoff chances, but for a first season in the EFL, not too bad. Can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, there's still that chance. Maybe if they get back on it, maybe as quick as they can. But they've got some ground to make up, like quite a lot now. And that result certainly was a damaging one. You can't concede 4 to a team that's quite down there and has struggled for goals all season, struggled for wins all season. It's just not good enough for me. And just a quick one on Swindon. They won 4-0 at Fleetwood. Very good result for them. Obviously, both teams have pretty much both got nothing to play for.
I mean, any slim chance of Fleetwood that was ruined, wasn't it?
That's gone. Swindon score a lot. I'll give him that. Holloway. He's got to tune out these players.
Ian Holloway's Barmy Army, I suppose.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be saying Barmy Army because it doesn't work with every single team, but we're gonna keep running with it.
Yeah. Very.
New 3-year deal.
3-year deal. I'm really intrigued. I'm really intrigued to see how he gets on there next season and how he sort of gets on with this board, because I think that will be the biggest thing. But there's no denying he's done a terrific job. That confirms Swindon's safety as well. And I think he mentioned as well that I don't think I did mention it. It confirmed that Bromley was safe yesterday as well, which for them is incredible. For that
I don't think they were ever.
They were never in doubt anyway. They were never in doubt, unlike Swindon.
Again, Michael Cheek picked up the golden boot when he. Let's be fair. I don't think any. I think the only real contention, Jata maybe. Obviously, Luke Molyneux's within that mix as well. But I think it's probably Michael Cheeks to lose. I know that he is top scorer, and I think it's either by 2 or 3 now.
Top goal scorers, Michael Cheeks got 21.
Actually, no, it'll be Michael Cheek by like 4 now because he's scored price.
Very quick looking at it. Michael Cheeks got 21, and both Alessandro Jata and Matty Stevens have 17.
Yeah, it's by 4 now. I should have known this. I literally made a video on this yesterday. I should remember these things.
Danny Rose is the 8th top goal scorer in the league. He's got 12.
Clyde Hopkins, Newcastle, the 2nd top goal scorer.
Terrible day for Fleetwood, and you can certainly hear it in Pete Wild's voice. He was far from impressed with that, as you probably expect. I think that's pretty much it. I know we've covered like the top end of the table quite in depth. We'll be back in the week for another preview pod. Keep an eye out over these next couple of weeks. We're still after fans, mainly for Notts County, Crewe Alexandra, AFC Wimbledon, and am I missing a team? Oh no, Walsall. We're after Walsall as well. To come on and have a chat. Of course, if you know anyone or are interested in coming on for a chat, if you're one of those clubs in particular, let us know. DM us. Message in the comments. We're greatly appreciated. Let us know your thoughts. What you think of this weekend? Of course, big weekend that happened. A lot of stuff that went on. So just trying to cram it all in. We really want to try and give it sort of the justice it deserved, especially at the top end, because there was just a crazy weekend. But this, it's League Two football, and strap yourselves in because there's plenty more twists and turns. With 5 games to go, some of them 6, but 5 games to go for the large majority. We're in for one exciting run into the between now and the end of the month. That is for sure. But thank you guys for listening as always. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you consider subscribing, leave a like. If you're listening to this, make sure you download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. We'll be back in the week next week. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. Thank you.